And our set was supposed to be 45 minutes, and he said you would have to do 90 minutes. And I was like, we
kind of like this podcast.
Yeah,
it was maybe 4 minutes. Why are we doing 2 minutes? No.
That's what happens when you invite a proper preacher. Like
No, this is so good. This is too serious.
Done all the high, we got the crew right here. Done all the high, I said done all the high.
If you're a young person, we sort of asked Sammy it as well, how do you even start to navigate, even people who aren't Christians, how do you navigate like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do in my life, or my purpose? Like, how would you...
I mean, it's one of the hardest things to work out, I think. Like,
I agree.
You know, people, you're told sort of school, high school, college, university, and then you'll find a job. And it's like, life is not as easy as that.
I wish it was.
You know, you've got people who go to university and they study geography or something because they don't know what to do. Sorry if anybody's and they actually want to do that.
Yeah.
But like I don't know why that's often the degree of choice for a lot of people when they don't know what to do. And then they come out and they just get a job in a bar or something like that. And I say just, I don't mean that in an insignificant way. I just sort of mean you still don't know what your purpose is. No. You're 25, you're 30, you're married, you get settled down with kids, and you still don't know what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. And actually, I reckon, first and foremost, God has put you on this earth on purpose, for a purpose. There is a purpose for your life. And I kind of do this teaching on 3 bubbles. And I draw it out a little bit like the Mickey Mouse sort of eyes and ears and just intersect them. So one bubble is God, the other bubble is church, and then the last bubble is you.
I can't help but hear bubbles and think like, for COVID, bubbles like, these can't mix, Josh. These can't mix.
No, the bubbles can't mix.
Those bubbles can't come into each other, Josh.
Let's say circles. I don't say circles because there's loads of teaching on circles.
But no, that's good, yeah.
I talk about it on my podcast, and I've got a...
And what is your podcast called?
Preach what you practice. Preach what you practice.
What you practice.
And that's what
it's very good.
That's what the book is about. But it's called What Is My Purpose? And I draw these 3 bubbles. Just 3. I'm a terrible artist. But you just draw 3 circles, and there's an intersection between all 3. So it's the God bubble, the church bubble, and the you bubble. So the God bubble is, what's God saying to you? What is there something in the Bible that's really speaking to you at the moment? The church bubble is, how could I serve my church? What are the needs of the church or my local community, right? And then the you bubble is, what's unique to you? What's different about you? What giftings and skills do you have? And I reckon there's an intersection between all 3 somewhere. That what God's speaking to you about is linked to the needs in your church and community, and is also linked to the unique skills and callings that you have. And somewhere in the middle, I reckon there's things about your purpose. Are you going to be able to find your exact purpose for right now? Maybe not, but the picture starts to become a little bit clearer.
So good.
So for me, it's like, I'm all about helping people. Like, I want to help you no matter what situation you're in. I want to help people. So my podcast, my videos, what I do, I'm like, I just want this to help people. Like, when God speaks to me, when I think about what my church needs, what my community needs, and then when I think about the type of person I am, I love to help people. So I know no matter what it is, no matter what situation I go into, my intersecting points are about helping people. So is this thing going to help people? Not really. Okay, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Because it's not part of my purpose.
That's really cool, because that's your word. My word is encourage. It's like, can I leave the place I am different to where I found it? So that's what I had Nando's like, I'm not on a stage right now, and that might not be what God has for me, but right now I could leave somebody. I want to leave somebody better than how I found them.
For sure.
You know?
You do that, bro.
Oh, thanks.
You do that so
I
well.
appreciate
And
that.
it's like, that might not necessarily be a particular job, but you just know, when I'm going to take a job, if it's the type of job where I'm not interacting with any human being, that can't be a job that I'm going to do. And it's the same with me. Like, I can't do a job that isn't with other people or doing something that involves people, because I'm a people person. I like to help people. Now, somebody might be on the exact opposite spectrum and be like, I'm all about numbers. I love numbers, like anything to do with numbers. I don't like to be around people.
We're not even going to shout out to those people.
Shout out to those people who have got a brain that I cannot understand.
They're not watching my podcast.
They switched off after they heard that I couldn't do GCSE maths paper at 23.
They're watching like some doctor's podcast.
Exactly,
They're listening to that.
Jesus loves you too, though, guys.
You want to do a job that's involved with that, do you know what I mean? So,
bro, That just so helps because that is about how do you find your purpose, and again, it's just so applicable for our young people, but then for anyone watching. And then another thing I would say, that kind of shows where your heart is and your passions. Like, so it could be writing your book, it could be being on stage, it could be preaching, as you said, or it could be being a dad or being a husband or being a friend. Your heart is, I want to help, you know, and it's transferable everywhere. So whatever God has for you in whatever season, like, it doesn't matter because your purpose remains the same. Oh, that's good, that, you know.
So Josh, you said that you have preached face to face to over 1 million people. Like, crazy. Me doing it to 30 young people is scary enough, right?
I couldn't imagine doing it to that many.
And then just like the music that you release and how many hits that gets. We asked this question to Sammy last week as well. How do you deal with like hate or any like snide comments on social media? Like, we're not big enough to get that yet, John Mark.
I was really upset. We got one dislike on our thing, and I was fuming.
Oh, right.
I was like, but like, it must. Yeah, it's a really good question.
For our young people who are watching, what advice would you give them about that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I listened to what you were saying with Sammy as well. Like, I find the smaller things harder. Like, we've done gigs with, like, our biggest gig was like 15,000 people.
Oh,
that's
honestly,
15,000
when
people.
it's that big, it's just a sea of people.
Were you nervous?
Like, no, because it's just a sea of people. Like, you can't really see people's faces.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm just up there like, everybody loves this. So it could just be like this.
But you can't see.
Things, and all you can see is the front row, and they're always the enthusiasts. You just look at the front row and you're like, everybody loves it.
This is amazing. I'm amazing.
Like, I mean, we've done classes where we have to perform as well with like 6 year 11 students in Salford. That must be tough. Like, we've gone into prisons with like 5 lads, like, and some of them are murderers and stuff like that, and I'm like, that is nerves.
That's
like,
difficult.
15,000 people like already screaming and hyped up. Easy. Massive stage. Video screens, making you look amazing. That's easy. But what was the question?
It's just easy.
It's easy. So big. I go on stage, 50,000 people, drink my champagne.
It's amazing.
Look at the picture you're painting. No. The thing is like, hate is always going to come around. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people.
Do you remember that though? Like, has there ever been a time, like, can you remember maybe the first time or something like that you got a message that like wasn't nice, or like really?
Honestly, it happens all the time. It's just one of those things, and like, this is a cheeky plug for my book, but I'm sorry that I plugged so much.
No, you plug away.
I'm gonna buy the book. I'm gonna buy it. It's like, it sounds good.
But the inception of the book, it all came from hate, a hateful comment, like a hateful thing that happened. So basically, I was preaching the gospel. It was in Salford. We were in a church, and there's like a load of young people, and whilst I'm preaching, this kid on the front row is sticking his middle finger up at me, like the entire time.
You're joking.
Like, not relenting, not letting up. It's just like middle finger, like
the whole time.
And he's got a United shirt on. So it's like,
so you're just like, I want to clip him in the head.
Already, like, and I think he probably did it because I probably said something about City or United. Probably, looking back now, probably my fault. If you're watching, bro, I'm so sorry. So he's doing it, and basically,
shout out middle finger at Salford, man.
Shout
out middle finger, man.
Your hair was like the same colour as mine. Shout out. See, this is why he probably did it. He's probably doing it at the screen.
What was that about my hair?
It just goes to your Instagram all day, and he's like,
I think he's a guy that dislikes all the videos. Yeah. So he's got his middle finger up at me the whole time. Now, I'm quite a new Christian, honestly. Like, I'd been, it was about 3 months on from that moment with Andy Hawthorne. So, like, I didn't understand the protocol, right, of how this goes down. So you're probably already imagining what's happening.
Oh, dear.
So I'm preaching the gospel, and I don't know why I thought that nobody would see me do this. Like, I'm on a stage in front of loads of people. I've got, like, Message employees, like Ian Rowbottom, who's like a leader at the Message, been there for like years and years and years, is at the back with a big smile on his face while I'm preaching. And I'm thinking, I don't know why I blocked all that out, but basically during my preach, I just stuck my middle finger up back at him. I was just like,
I got to rate it. I rate it.
like, mate, it got to me so much.
That is brilliant.
Anyway,
It's better
Have
than
you ever
jumping.
been flipped off by a pastor,
Yeah,
by a
that's-
preacher?
have you ever?
That's the clickbait right there.
Yeah.
Preach to 1 million people with a middle finger.
Mate, you should have do such a good clickbait. But basically, like, I came off stage, did the gospel, people
Yeah.
responded, it was amazing. But I came off stage feeling awful.
Yeah.
I was like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
You know what it is like? Even when God uses you in a massive way, there's somehow always that little thing, like, you feel like, oh, I fumbled my word, or oh, like, I tripped up on the stage, like, on the way there, or whatever. It's like, who cares? But for some reason, it gets really deep. I mean, this was a little bit worse than those things. But I came off and I was like, God, I feel terrible. Like, I just want to be somebody who practices what I preach.
Yeah.
And God really clearly spoke to me and said, don't be somebody who practices what you preach. Be someone who preaches what they practice. Preach what you practice. And I was like, oh God, like, that sounds amazing. Like, what does that mean? And he was like, never get up on a stage and preach something that you don't live.
It's good.
And I was like, oh my days. And it's honestly, it set the trajectory for my life, because I was so much like wrapped up in the stage, being cool, all this kind of thing. Yeah, just get up, gospel, get off and just like live whatever life I want to. And that's happening all the time. We were talking about this before when we were having a coffee, like a really prominent pastor in America, like not living the life off the stage. But we get it wrong in the church. We're like, oh yeah, we should be people who practice what we preach. No, we should never be preaching something that's not actually in our lives. We've got to live it out first in our lives and then preach it. So I talk about two things: preach what we live and get our walk to talk. Because so often, like you working in Nando's, it'll be your walk that's talking louder than anything. The fact that you don't swear, the fact that you, I mean, I know we all struggle, but for the most part,
Shout out Nando's.
Don't comment. Don't
Don't comment,
on
don't
what
hate
John
on
Mark is
But you
actually
know what?
like.
The fact that you don't backbite, the fact that you don't gossip, or maybe you don't do it as much as other people, is saying so much.
But what's also interesting on the
Walk
flip
is
side is if you then don't
Slip.
do that, people will notice. And I've had that in Nando's. Like they were like, "Hold on, Jamar, you said you were a Christian, but you drank too much at that party. I thought Christians don't get drunk." And you're like, "Oh, people are actually watching the
They
way that I'm
really
living, and like they care." And
I
like,
tell the story in the book, like Ryan, who's in the band with me, like, so when he got married, like he got married a virgin, so he didn't have sex before he got married, which to me was like the most amazing achievement that you could ever achieve in your entire. I know. I was
Of
like,
all the
oh
shout
my
outs,
days.
that needs a shout
shout
out.
out, Ryan! Come on, lad. Well done.
You kept your penis in your pants. Can we keep that in?
Yeah, oh, we're keeping
Yeah, I
that in
hope so.
100%.
I hope so.
We're all checking it
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Luke
yeah.
every-
Yeah, look, it's all right.
He's saying.
Who's staying in?
It might be a beep.
Yeah. But like, you know, I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
And he got ridiculed all his life in
Yeah.
high school for it. Like high school, everyone taking the mick out of him. Oh, it's a virgin. Oh, this or that. But do you know what? He always says this. On his graduation, when he finished school, he got letter after letter after letter from people in school like, dude, I'm going to be honest. Like, the fact that you did that, fair play.
Yeah.
Like, yo, like, you're amazing. Like, I never said this to you. I usually used to take a mick out of you, but actually I admired you, like, for what you did. And actually, it's that point that our walk can talk so much more than getting up there, giving the big preach. And so often we do focus on that, like, and yeah, we've got the podcast, and the podcast is good, but actually, it's what you're saying to your young people day to day. You know, those messages that you send, or that extra mile that you go, like, that's the real thing that makes a young person go, oh, maybe God does love me.
Yeah.
Like, maybe God is real. And so
That's
what,
amazing.
That's what the book is all about. And, you know, for me, like, you know, when it comes to overcoming hate and all that kind of stuff, it's all about what's going on in you. It's not about what's going on in them. Like, we really have to catch that. That's a really important thing, is like, we always focus on what the other person does, but actually, how are you going to respond? You know, because so often we live reactive lives, but actually we need to be proactive. Like, if somebody gives hate to me, I am going to react to this way. I can't choose what somebody else says to me, but I can choose what I believe about myself, and I can choose.
It gets
how I'm
people
gonna
more
react.
annoyed though. It's like if you're just like so much nicer about it, and because people might be jealous or envious, and like that's normally where, or it's something to do with their personal life that they're like, you know, and it's like, That's really interesting.
For
you
sure,
say that.
like I've seen Sammy say on this episode before, like kids these days are savage. Like they are. But to be honest, most of them are just joking.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
most of them, they're not even being serious. Like they're just joking. Like, and I remember last year we put out a video on Grime Daily, which is like a rap channel, like in the UK, and it's like full of like super cool people and stuff like that. And we thought our video was kind of cool, and we put it on Grime Daily, and it got some love and it got some hate as well. But me and Ryan, we went through the comments. We were just laughing because I was like, actually, that's actually funny. Like some of the comments, I was like. That's actually
Fair play,
funny.
fair
Like,
play, yeah.
I don't take it as hate, but it's all about what's going on in me. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm like not taking myself too seriously, like we're not like them. Like, I'm not here to be cool. Like, and the fact that you're finding it really hard to receive the hate says more about you than it says about them. Because it's like, what standard, what like image are you trying to put out? Like, are you really that concerned about the way that you look that if somebody says, "Oh, your beard is weird," like you're not able to go. Is a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, or you can be at least I can grow a beard. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
Like,
Shout
just don't take yourself so serious. Shout out.
Shout out everyone who can grow a beard. I look awful without a beard, so I'll shout out.
Can't
Thank
take
you,
ourselves
Jesus, he
that
sorted me out.
I think it's really helpful. It's really good.
Some of the stuff, honestly, Josh, and I think we're going to do this probably in 2 parts because there's just been so much content, but it's been so good. And like,
thanks, man.
you've been so helpful, and like, I think all the advice you're giving is so applicable to all walks, like all ages, because it's things that like, you know, as you said, opinions of others, that doesn't go away. And like, you know, people comparing, that might not go away. You've got to learn to deal with these things, like mental health. You've got to learn to maybe work through these things because they might never go away, but we'll be able to manage them. We'll be able to, you know, that stuff. It's
good.
Sure.
Josh, I got a few questions that I really wanted to know. Also, another thing you said about trainers, I do want to say this. I remember at Big Church Day Out before you went on stage, I asked you where you got your trainers from, and I was like 17 because I was like,
It's
"That's
the only reason why JM's a Christian.
the only." No, but honestly, like people.
Honestly, you weren't listening.
Yeah.
That
The whole 90 minutes of this conversation
hasn't been
is
listening.
wasted.
all he could think about was the trainer.
Yeah, exactly. He's just there. wanting-
I covet after trainers so much. It's just
me
like
too.
all I look
Same,
at is
it's
like
so
trainers,
hard.
trainers. Good.
But just a few things. What is the worst gig you've been at, and what is the best gig you've been at? And can you tell us any embarrassing stories? Like Sammy said, I don't know if you've had issues with your sports bras on stage, but you know,
It's important. It's just a rule of life.
It's real life, you
Always
know?
make sure that you've got the sport bra just in
it
case.
is important. It is important.
I mean, oh man, like for context, the other guy in the band is American, so he's a lot cooler than me. He's a white guy. I'm a white guy. We rap, so we always carry around this little bit of like, we're kind of white rappers, not really so cool. So
Yeah.
this is for context for the best gig we ever did. So it was in Manchester.
Yeah.
Shout
Come on,
out-
Manny.
Shout out Manchester.
Of course
And
it is.
it's with a church called Jubilee Church, but they were doing it at the arena. So they
Wow.
rented out the arena. Crazy faith, like
Wow.
awesome guys, and they're mainly Black African congregation, right?
Yeah.
So me and Ryan are like, they're gonna hate it. Like we are, like they're gonna think we're ripping off their culture, like. But I kept on saying to Ryan, I was like, no, but you can actually rap, like you're American, like
Yeah.
you guys invented rap, like you're gonna be okay, like. I'm not gonna be okay, like, I look like I should be in One Direction, like this is where I had the swept back
Shout
hair
out
and
One
everything,
Di.
so it's like it's just one of them things. But honestly, unfortunately, we had Christina at the time, which is super helpful. So Black African gospel singer, like incredible voice. So like, I'm just gonna hide behind Christina. Go on, Christina. But honestly, we did this like more rap song. Ryan's doing his bars, and it was the best thing you've ever seen. Like the song had a big 808 on it, so it was like, and you just see like a flock of like young people just like, hey,
That's
coming down.
so
And I was
amazing.
like,
This is cool.
yes,
Yeah.
I've made it. I've made it. And they just went nuts. And honestly, we've been invited every year to come back.
That's cool.
And it's like for me, that's the like
That's the
musically,
one.
that is the one in my hometown, in the iconic like Manchester Arena. Like used to drive past it thinking, yo, if we could ever perform. First gig I ever saw was Foo Fighters in that arena, like insane.
Have you had like have you ever, is that an experience that, is there a pinch yourself moment? Has there ever been something, I know that would be a pinch yourself moment, but has there been like one that you just like, I cannot believe my life has got to this point? And not in the sense of like, you've reached something, but you're like, Jesus, how have you done this? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I'll tell two stories. First of all, we did this gig in Norway, favourite place. It was on a private island. So they'd rented out a private island, young people everywhere, 10,000 people.
This is nuts.
Bro, I can't make this stuff up. Like, I don't know how it's happened.
That is
like, it's
unbelievable.
God. Like, we used to look at the analytics from Spotify stuff, and you'd be like, 10,000 listeners in Norway, and you're like, we've never been to Norway. How has this even happened? And so we start getting invited. And main stage, me and Ryan go down like into the pit, like into the crowd, and stand up on the crowd barrier. Like performing a song, going nuts. Like Christina's looking at us, like doing the loop, like.
That's gonna be a meme right now. No. Doing the look. Jesus, is this okay? Can we put this in?
Christina's like, Lord, the boys.
Have we risk assessed this?
We're doing a drum and bass track, and you know when the track builds, and it's just about to drop. Like me and Ryan are like looking over at each other,
like,
and then in sync, and we've got this on video. In sync, we jump out at the same time on a crowd surf, and both get caught, and we're looking over at each other like. It's just like best moment of
must
our
be
life.
so. Are you like best? Are you guys like tight?
Best mates.
But that must be amazing.
And
That's
Joel, I have to shout out Joel Atkins, our sound engineer.
So,
if you ever met him, like we're like.
But that must be amazing to like live doing those things. Be like, you know.
Bro, this is how I know God is real.
Do you know what I mean?
So
That's
like in Norway with an American guy who's now my best friend, performing drum and bass songs about Jesus, and like kids of.
Crowd surfing.
Like, what is going on? So there's
cool.
that, and then the first time we ever did a gig in Slovakia, like, I didn't even know where Slovakia was.
I don't know where
like,
it is.
No.
I got a D in geography.
I've been like 8 times, and I still don't know where it is. Like, so we went over town centre, and basically, this is a weird story, right? Matt Redman was supposed to be the headline. The week before the gig, Matt Redman had to pull out for something, and the guy calls me and says, "Would you be the headline?" And I was like, "We've never performed in Slovakia." And our set was supposed to be 45 minutes, and he said, "You would have to do 90 minutes." And I was like, we
Kind of like this podcast.
Yeah, it was maybe 4 minutes. Why are we doing 2 minutes? No.
That's what happens when you invite a preacher. Like,
No, this is so good. This is too serious.
Like, for real, like, I was like, we only have one album, so we had to make remixes of every single song to even do the 90-minute set. So like, and we had no idea. Like, honestly, I thought like maybe 500 to 1,000 people, and we're waiting there all day. And for some reason, because we're the headline, which we'd never been before, we didn't know what it was like to get treated as the headline. So we were like in this nice hotel. They're like, we're going to come and pick you up 5 minutes before the gig. And so you get driven in like a car right to the stage, like 5 minutes. Get out, we're behind this big curtain, like in a town centre, thinking like, Slovakia.
There'll be 3 people.
I pulled back the curtain, 7,000 people.
Whoa.
It was just like a sea of people, like as far as you could see, like in somewhere like Piccadilly Gardens. Imagine it being just packed full of people on a big stage. I was like, what is going on? We are underprepared.
That's so funny. You're like, excuse me, this for us.
Is this like, are you going to take us to the actual And honestly, bro, it was the most insane experience of my entire life. Like, I'm talking.
Have you ever cried after a set, or have you ever cried during like a?
I've cried on stage. Like,
yeah, it's just like it must be overwhelming. Just be like, this is like.
This was, bro. After the gig, we stayed up till like 3 a.m. talking about the gig.
Yeah.
Like, we got the flight 7 o'clock in the morning to get home. All the flight, we're like buzzing up. Do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when that happened? It's the most amazing gig, but also and I'm sorry to bring it back to like a deep spiritual.
No,
thing
no, it's
about
good.
it,
No, it's good.
But a promise that God put on my life 7 years before, that was at one time I would see 1,000 people respond to the gospel.
Right.
And and I never thought it would happen. And this was a time where I was sort of like, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Like, it doesn't need to happen. Like, I was like, God, like, I just want to see one person get saved. Like, I don't like. It's not about that. And honestly, I did the gospel and didn't expect it to happen. But when I did the response, like, so many hands went up.
Come on.
I was like, and people were watching, like, there was a live stream of it. People were watching back in England, and like people were texting me after, like, dude, I think like 2,000 people just responded. Like, I think 1,500 people just responded. The guy counted for me, and it was like 1,200 people, and I was like, I've made it.
God,
I was
that's
like,
it.
Lord, take me back. I've seen like 1,000 people.
That's-
respond.
No, that's unbelievable,
And
man.
who knows where they are right now? I pray that like some of
Yeah.
them like give their life to Jesus, but like it's just one of them pinch yourselves moments where you're like, how did it?
But you can only be like faithful to what God's called you to do,
Exactly.
and it's like God and the Holy Spirit to do the rest.
Exactly.
And
what
that's
it's all
amazing.
about.
From a kid, 18, in
In
a
a
prison
prison
cell. Mate, this is the clickbait.
Tried to commit suicide
Try to commit
in a
suicide.
police cell. Jesus changed my life, and suddenly 1,000 people
Yeah, it's
responded. Like in
amazing.
Slovakia, don't even know where it is. But you make a really interesting point, actually, and I talk about this a lot. Like, when it comes to evangelism, we're not called to count the numbers. We're not called to worry about how many people are engaging and responding. We're only called to be faithful to preach what God's told us to preach, and that's it.
And that's so encouraging. So for young people to be like, oh, I'm not in front of 7,000 people, but you are in a classroom with your buddies.
Yeah.
You
And
are in a
that's more
classroom.
important.
Yeah.
It's more
Like-
important because that thing there with the 7,000 people, that's superficial. Like, yeah, it's significant,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's superficial. Like, I don't know those people. Like, I would love to be able to sit down one-on-one and take them on a journey for years, in school together and all that kind of stuff. But what's going on in the high school, that's way more significant. Like, you're having way more of an impact than on a stage.
And we spoke about before just how like brutal year 11s are as well.
Yeah.
It's like to be a Christian, to be different, to be a light means that you stand out. And like, as a school, like when I was at school, the only thing you want to do is blend in and fit in. So it's really difficult. I think like one of the most amazing things, Josh, because this is the first time we've like proper met and spoke, is just like hearing all these stories of how many people you've performed in front of and stuff. It's just amazing to see how grounded you are.
And that's what I would want to say in front of this is like,
I mean, I hope
It's
that,
really cool.
I hope that comes across like I've thrown so many.
no,
numbers.
but that's
no,
why
it's
I said it about like Governor B and again people like Lenz and Sammy, all these people who are known in these circles. They're all grounded, humble, serve in their church, and you're the same. And it's like you can tell that isn't the goal. The goal is, as you said, your wife, your kids, to be plugged into a church.
Plugged in.
And be mentally, physically well, and just do what Jesus puts in front of you, and like you are grounded, and God gives you what you can handle. Because I tell you what, if I was in front of 7,000 people, mate, wouldn't be good for my ego.
After the youth service, the 30 kids, we were like, we've done
after
it.
30
Like,
kids, I was like, I've smashed it, I've done it. And it's like,
where's my Josh Green champagne glass?
yeah, exactly. And then, but then, honestly, back at Nando's scrubbing the toilets
Yeah.
next,
But
and
bro,
it's. But
that's
that's
what it's all about.
what it's all about, bro.
A few months ago, like, because of financial situations, I was working on my brother-in-law's building site as a labourer. Like, but it's like, and I'm telling the lads there about Jesus, and I had this moment where I was like, this is no different from 7,000 people in Slovakia. It's really not, because at the end of the day, like, people matter.
Yeah.
Like, God loves those lads.
It's
who
so
now,
good,
some
Josh.
of them are like my mates. God loves those lads, and He died for them.
Yeah.
Just as much as all of those people there. And I really don't want it to come across as like blowing my own trumpet. And thank you so much for saying that. But we do have to keep ourselves grounded. It is a discipline. Like, I'd be lying if I said like I didn't come off stage from time to time, or like charted in Switzerland or whatever, and be like, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to celebrate and stuff. And, like, and stuff like that. It's okay to like high five, like 30 kids, like, or like whatever, or like even one person, like let's celebrate. And actually, I don't think we do that enough in church. Like often we beat ourselves up and like all that kind of stuff. I think the Americans do it really well, like sort of celebrate.
that's good.
You got to find that balance between celebrating and celebrity. You got to find that balance between the two things, because like if you celebrate too much, it can turn into I'm the guy.
Yeah.
I think that's what's come out of the podcast. Building site,
Yeah.
on a stage,
Yeah.
or at home. It's like everywhere.
Yeah.
When you know your purpose,
Yeah.
God's going to use
Purpose always stays the same.
Yeah.
It's good.
And I think sometimes we just got to step back a little bit and just ask ourselves simply, like you guys have been saying, what is my purpose? All right, let's get on with that. Let's be simple. We're not like them. We're not celebrities. We're not like them. We don't do like puffing ourselves up. We're not interested in money. We're interested in people. Like we care about people. And that's what I was saying before about right at the beginning. We sort of have this thing in church of like serve for a little bit and then you can be the leader.
Yeah,
And it's
so
like,
good.
Jesus said it's servant leadership. So
Never changes.
No, it's like you serve for a time, and guess what? You carry on serving. And it's like 13 years of ministry, thousands of people all over the world. After 13 years, I'm on a building site.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah. Like it's always about serving. It always be about people. Like we're working on our new church building in Stockport. I'm painting. It's like, but this is what it's about. I love it. Like
it's good.
I drive like within the speed limit. It's one of my favourite things to do, to go and paint the church building. Why? Because that's what it's all about. Like it's just the same as going to do that stuff, and we just need to keep.
It's keeping the main thing the main thing.
The main thing.
There you go.
Keep the main thing. But Josh Green, we are going to have, there's going to be 2-part episode
We
with
need
Josh.
to finish now.
No, it will be a 2-part episode with Josh. I think there's so
It's
much.
been
we
so,
don't
so
we
good.
don't want to. We will share both because it's about an hour and a half. We'll do 40 minutes each. But thank you
Sorry,
so.
Luke.
No, it's good. It's been
Honestly, it's.
the whole way through. It's like, oh, we're gonna have to cut some of
But
this.
we're not going to cut
We're
it.
not. We're gonna
because
do 2 parts.
it's incredible.
Special.
You are such a gift to the church. You're such a gift to Manchester. And when's your book
And
out?
the world.
And the world. And shout out to the world. When's your book out? What's it called? And what's your podcast called again? Just so we can all get that in and all that stuff.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so the book is called Preach What You Practice, How to Get Your Walk to Talk. And the podcast is the same thing, Preach What You Practice. So the podcast is every week, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that. Podcast is every week, and then the book is coming out in 2021, hopefully.
Come on.
I'm
And I can't wait to read it.
hopefully by the summer. Thanks, man. Like, I'm going to send you guys a copy because I love you guys.
Yes, and I will read it.
For free.
Amen.
Yes.
And I will
video
get
now,
you.
so-
That's what video. And I will, when we're allowed to go in lockdown, we'll go for 40% off Nando's because you still haven't had a 40% off Nando's, have you?
I'm not.
You've not.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been
That's it.
Relevance Podcast. Thank you so much.
I
God
hope
bless
you've
you.
enjoyed it as much as we have.
It's been unbelievable. I could say it forever.
Subscribe.
Subscribe and.
Ciao.